Hey everyone, today I'm gonna give you a mini workspace tour as well as show you my setup for filming my painting time-lapse videos. I actually cleaned up the space recently, but I feel like I turned around and suddenly it was messy again, so excuse the mess. Let's start with this table on the left and then I'll work my way right towards my filming setup. I put my second monitor and a bunch of art supplies here. This is the stuff I use most often for my gouache painting, so it's in an easy to access location. There's tape, brushes, scissors, a multi-tool, some more paint. I also have a bunch of alcohol markers here on the side with some scrap paper. It's really nice to just have them there to pop open and do little doodles, like here I was in the middle of drawing this flower. I also have inks and acrylic paints in that container on the left. And then just to the right is a new addition. It's a standing desk that Flexispot sent me that I'm very hyped about. I actually had some problems with ergonomics earlier last year and I thought I had carpal tunnel, but I think I was actually compressing my ulnar nerve because the table I was using was the wrong height for me. It was pretty freaky and my entire right hand and forearm, or the bottom part of it, were numb for weeks until I stopped using that table. So yeah, make sure you take care of your best tools, your hands. There's lots of good ergonomics tips online. Oh, and here's me putting the table together. I did it almost all myself, but it was too heavy for me to flip back around. The key to my filming setup is this phone stand that I bought last year. I film everything with an iPhone 11, so this is what gives me that perfect top-down angle, and I'll show you how I set it up a bit later. Also, this is the one that I use, and I'll put links to stuff that I mentioned in the description, but you don't need to use this exact stand. I'm sure there's lots of things that would work. Anyways, I'll get back to that, but here in this corner I have some bookshelves with a ton of my books and sketchbooks, as you can see, as well as the filming setup. I spent a lot of time organizing these two shelves, so now there's some sort of order. There's a bunch of poems here at the top. You can see all my sketchbooks on the right shelf. There's categories like classics, math and science, philosophy and history, general fiction, as well as a bunch of art and architecture books that are heavy, so I have them at the very bottom there. Also, if you saw those sketchbooks and immediately thought, sketchbook tour, trust me, I'm working on it, there's just a lot. But here's another closer pan of some of those books. I've read most of these, but some of them were gifts that I haven't gotten to yet, or they were books that I read for architecture school. Okay, now I'll go over my filming setup in some more detail. It's really important to have bright and even white lighting for these, so here I'm raising my table to get some more daylight. I also have some white LED lamps for when I paint at night. I've tried filming these painting videos on a bunch of different surfaces now, and I still prefer white tabletops the most. I think the end results end up looking much brighter, and the painting itself is the focus of the video. Also, with gouache specifically, since it dries matte, you are able to really shine some bright lights onto the painting directly. This causes glare on the table, but with a white tabletop you don't really notice it, but it can end up being quite distracting if you have something darker. So I've put some of the stuff that I want to show up on the video on the table to get an idea of how close or how far my camera needs to be, and I've set up my phone on the stand now. My videos usually take 1 to 2 hours, and my phone battery can definitely film for that entire length, but I get a little paranoid, so I also have a charger plugged in, and you can see there's a little notch on the holder that lets you keep the phone plugged in while it's in. I had an already finished painting on the table earlier, but here I'm taping down a fresh piece of paper. Adding the tape has two uses for me. First of all, it keeps the paper in exactly the same spot while I'm painting so that it doesn't shift or move out of frame for the video. And second of all, for water-based mediums, taping it down helps with preventing buckling or lifting of the paper. Now that I have everything that I want in the shot on the table arranged, I'm just adjusting the camera so that the angle is as straight on as possible and the distance from the scene is right. So for adjusting the angle, I kind of look at the edges of the paper and I compare that to the grid on the camera. It looks something like this when I'm done. Also, when you're setting up, make sure your camera is on video mode because it often has a different crop than photos. But yeah, pretty simple, right? When I first started filming these time-lapse videos, I actually just stacked a whole bunch of boxes and I put my phone at the very top with a weight on one end of it so that it doesn't fall off. After a while, I felt like that was getting kind of ridiculous, so I started looking into different tripods that I could use. I ended up going with this kind because you can really adjust the angles in a bunch of different joints and also tighten them so you can make sure that it stays at that position. I also considered potentially getting these gooseneck type stands, but I read a bunch of reviews and it seems like they snap easily. So far I haven't had any problems with the one that I bought, but I'm also pretty careful about not over tightening the plastic screws or jerking it around too much. The holder attachment itself also fits my 11-inch iPad, though it gets a little bit heavy at that point, so I prefer just using it with my phone. It also folds up pretty nicely, so I've been able to take this filming setup to different people's houses and paint while I'm there. The part that attaches to the table looks like this, and the only thing to be careful about is sometimes tables don't have overhangs at the edges, or there's not enough space between the table and the wall to fit this. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it. Let me know if you saw anything in this video that you want me to elaborate on. I'm not sure how in detail people like their tours. And again, I'll put the links to some of the things that I mentioned in this video in the description if you want to check it out. Thanks Flexispot for sending me this table. My poor hands and arms love it, and so does my back. Hope everyone's doing well so far in 2021, and thanks for watching!